This is the CreaseCast.
Been signed to closed. Like,
whoa! Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's the CreaseCast, episode number 145. We got 2 Canucks games to cover. We got some AHL games to cover, but more importantly, Lachlan and I get to spend some of this episode gloating about our writing work that got featured on CanucksArmy.com over the weekend.
yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? That was pretty cool.
That's pretty great timing because it was like it wasn't just like I was one week and you were the next week. It was like
one after the other.
One after the other. CreaseCast taking over type of stuff. Which
it's just like when Quads and Faber both started at Canucks Army, I think they started pretty close, like not right after one after the other. I think Faber had been there Faber got there first, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So it's a little bit like that for us today. I will make basically just if you haven't heard, not only like that was my first article of many I'll be doing for Canucks Army this season. I'm going to be writing a lot for Canucks Army this year. Basically, this will be where all my writing goes this season. Basically, I am very excited about it. This has been in the works for a while now because this has been Quads and I had talked about this back in May during my Abbotsford project day. It was just a matter of kind of like figuring all the details out and that kind of thing. Kind of finally came to fruition this week. And now I'll be writing there at least. You'll be seeing me plenty, I guess at least like 15 times a month, which is pretty cool.
What? That's
at least.
Fucking lot of writing. Holy shit.
That's a lot of writing. You'll be seeing some stuff kind of like what I did. What I did yesterday with the today actually with the Conor Garland article that I did. Yeah. And maybe some other like even cooler stuff than that. Maybe even more on top of that. Yeah, exactly. And Cody, you're going to be doing some not as much. You won't be.
I won't be doing 15 articles a month.
No. But you've got your own other 20 articles a month to be doing for your own website. But
I've got 20 recaps and stat tracking to do. Which is what I'm going to be doing after we're done recording this episode, which is always the worst feeling in the world. But yeah, I had Quads reach out to me after my little day at camp, pitched an article to him, and he was like, send it to me and I'll find a day to put it out. And Sunday was the day. And I think it'll probably be pretty infrequent. Just like if I ever have like good stories coming out of camp, I'll pitch it to old Quadrelli over at Canucks Army and Daily Faceoff. And if they feel like putting it on their site, we'll go with that. Exciting weekend. Canucks Army obviously is like kind of the go-to spot for or writers based out of the Lower Mainland to write about the Vancouver club.
It's like the way I put it today on Locked On is it's kind of like, every major writer in the Canuck blogosphere or whatever the Smelosphere, whatever it's called now. I forget what it's called now. Has gone through, basically all of them have gone through Canucks Army at some point.
Yeah.
Like
at some point,
I remember when J-Pat was there for a while. Like I remember when J-Pat was there for like a month or two in between jobs. Like Drancer. I think Wyatt wrote there for a while. I think obviously Dmitry Filipovich, all the computer boys who are the much smarter than us computer boys who are off doing their own great things in the NHL nowadays. A lot of Beecher, obviously, a lot of people who
I don't know if our articles will get us hired by not Canucks organization, but any NHL organization. But it's a good start. It's a good foundation for eventually getting there.
I believe one of the more famous articles from Canucks Army was I think it was where it was Can of Potato outdraft the Canucks. I think specifically the Mike Gillis era Canucks at that time. And the potato was called Sham Sharon after Cam Sharon, who wrote there for a long time.
And it significantly outdrafted them. Like
because it just took the idea was that it just took next player you were always taking next player available. Next best player available in the draft rankings or whatever. I could do that. I could maybe do that, but no. But yeah, there have been some great people who have all gone through that system, and it almost, Cody, this is a segue that would feel very at home for you. It's like it's the farm team for writing almost. Like it's a little bit of everybody takes their turn through there and then goes on to cool stuff. So it's even if we don't necessarily go on to be these amazing, big names in writing or in hockey journalism or anything, just the fact that we're here is cool. Like it's awesome.
It's like
to see.
It's like we've grinded our way through the ECHL and we finally got our looks with like the top tier AHL team. We're doing our fourth line minutes, we're plugging away, we're grinding, we're finishing our checks, we're showing up with a good work ethic and a good attitude. And hey, maybe that gets us called up to other places like the Athletic. I know I shooted my shot the other day. I shooted my shit. Yeah, I thought that was really funny because, like, obviously when I first started writing about the farm team, like the whole thing was like it was called the Farmies, and it was purely called that so I could get the attention of Jason Botchford and hopefully he'd have a laugh at the play on words. And then I saw that comment on why it's first Armies of the year. It's like, if they ever talked about the Abbotsford Canucks, they should totally call it the Farmies. And in my head, I'm like, well, buddy, have I got a series for you? You might enjoy. Not on the Athletic, but hey, shoot your shot.
Go for it.
I've not heard anything from the Athletic yet, but if they're listening to this, I work for very, very cheap. I bitch and moan a lot, and I swear in my articles, so that I think
that's
in tune
okay
with the kids.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I've definitely heard. I've definitely seen a few. I'm sure if it's just not like with like. And it's like a crazy
player
amount.
Like this fucking piece of shit.
Your F-bombs per 60 has to be like 1.5 or under, probably something like that.
That'd be tough.
Yeah. But like I think I don't think that's against the rules necessarily. But anyway, it's it's cool. It's already a very good start to the season for us.
Yes. Yeah. That's basically how we can summarize it. It was a great start for us. We had a better start to the 2021-2022 season than the Canucks have. Wouldn't you say?
I'd have to agree with you, unfortunately.
I guess we'll get into the two games they played, which were on Friday and Saturday.
Which is weird because here's the thing, like you look at the record, it doesn't look like they've played all that badly. Like if you're just looking at the pure numbers of it all, it doesn't look like
the results you're like, oh, okay, they've earned
1-1-1,
3 out of a possible 6 points. Like that's all right.
That's not bad, especially all 3 on the road, like on a 6-game road trip. That's considered pretty good. That's a good start.
But then you remember what teams they're playing.
You remember what teams they're playing, and you also realize, they've also given up 5 out of a possible 6 points. So 3 of those are to Eastern teams, sure. But still, as far as the starts are concerned, not the best. It's about you're if we're given a letter grade on it, it's like you're at a C-. Like you're right, or like a C. You're right there.
You're doing enough to not be failing, but you're still not doing too hot. The Philadelphia game was just kind of fun because it was awful goaltending, and you know how much I love awful goaltending. The Detroit game was like the inverse, where it was, unfortunately for Vancouver, very good goaltending by Thomas Greiss, which seemed to be the difference maker. Because I forgot about this, but Detroit didn't have their first line center in Dylan Larkin, and they still lost.
That's right. He was suspended. That was that game, I'm sure. Like, I imagine we're probably going to start on the Flyers game first, or kind of just jumble them all together, I guess. It's like I think especially the first game with the Flyers, the whole team showed up. They played very well. They weren't very good in the first period. The second period, they were very good. And then the third period, they kind of coasted and it cost them. The second game was really different in the sense of like, personally, like I look at the shot totals. So I look, obviously a lot of shots on net. Like at first glance, your immediate thought is just, oh, Thomas Greiss was very, very good and he shut them down the whole game. But at the same time, I feel like half the team was very good and the other half didn't show up. Like I felt like they never showed up. And I feel like in theory they would have won if they had gotten more of a full contribution from the bench. It kind of felt like in that game against Detroit that they only like half the group was really contributing.
Yeah, fair. The lone standout, which much to my chagrin, was Conor Garland.
Yes.
And for a wonderful reason, because I, as you know, was basically prepping the entire day for the first write-up of the AHL season. So I was full of anxiety. So I wasn't really paying attention to the Detroit game. But the one time I did tune in was him throwing that amazing reverse hit onto Filip Zadina. And then just the resulting whining from Zadina afterwards, where he called Garland a very unkind word. He called him I believe he called him a midget in the post-game press conference.
Yeah, he did. He sure did.
Which is like bold enough to use that phrasing like in general, but Filip Zadina's only 5'10".
Yeah.
Like he's not tall either. Like by hockey standards, he's a short king, as the broadcast put it.
Yeah, see, what his mistake was, he tried to follow basically what Travis Konechny did in the first game, where I don't think there's an actual audio clip of it, but you can see very clearly on his face during the broadcast that Travis Konechny calls Conor Garland an angry little elf, which is funny because elves are mythical creatures and are not like they're from medieval folklore thing, right?
Well,
that's funny.
And it's a reference to the movie Elf starring Will Ferrell.
It is, which means that Travis Konechny watches good movies. He's a movie buff. What Filip Zadina did was use a term that is super ableist and not okay. Like it's one of those words that's like, and I feel like the best way to put it, it's not like a banned word, but it's very not cool. Like it's very
condescending and disrespectful nowadays, and it has been for like a while. Like that's the thing, is like a lot of phrasing and like terminologies for people have changed like radically in the last couple of years, but midget specifically has been like on its way out since like the 90s. You know what I mean? Like it's a pretty bold thing to say.
I have to check where Filip Zadina played minor hockey, because I don't know if you know this, Cody, because you didn't play hockey growing up, but like midget was the phrasing.
It's the phrase for junior tiers
for the 16. So there's midget 16, which is the 15 and 16-year-olds, and then midget 18, which is 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds. And that was used in hockey up until, I believe, at least in Canada, I believe it was used only up until they only stopped using that phrasing up until I want to say 2-3 years ago, like not very long ago. They changed it to the much smarter setup, because it used to go basically it went midget 18, midget 16, going down from the age groups, 16, bantam, Kiwi, Atom, and then I forget what's under Atom. There's what mites. I think it's
MITE or something like that.
Yeah, mites. It's MITE, and in the US it's a little like those like last two, the names are a little different. They very recently changed those to just be U18, U16, which some people like complained about. It's like, this makes way more sense. Like immediately, like know exactly what we're looking at. Like, exactly.
If if someone said to me like, "Oh, my kid's in Adam right now," I'd be like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah,
Or,
you'd
"They're
have
in
to
midget."
know
I'd
their
be like,
age.
"I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, it makes way more sense to just go by the U18, U16
the
format.
age number, because that's how soccer does it, and it makes complete sense.
Yeah, that's
You don't need
it
to
was being
complicate
overly complicated for the sake of being overly complicated. I believe in the US they still use the original setup, but I would imagine that's going to change probably themselves.
I think they do too, but what they do is, I'm pretty sure in like if you check Elite Prospects, it'll be like Adam, then it'll be the age U16 AAA or AA or whatever.
Yeah,
so
it
it's
changes
a bit
a little
better.
It also because of the way the US is structured with hockey, like it changes state to state. So it's not like here where, because there's only like a certain amount of provinces, it's a lot easier to kind of keep like a setup like pretty close to similar in every province kind of thing. In the States, it varies a lot, like to the point where I remember when I moved back up here, when I was moving back up here, the Northern California Hockey Association that runs all the minor hockey in Northern California, because again, California is too big, they split it into two groups. They split them down the middle and then meet for a state championship at the end. They adjust in Northern California because of not enough players up at the in the later stages age levels for like A and B. Because a lot of the best players were all going to like the AAA and AA teams. They just decided to get rid of those two groups altogether and just combine them into high school with the high school leagues. And basically now, instead of having the two U16 and U18 at all, it's junior varsity and varsity. So they've just combined the high school program and the minor hockey programs at those two top age groups. And then if you're good enough, you go to the age groups for AA and AAA, just because there's not enough talent to go around at that in that area yet. This is getting very off topic, but yeah, I guess if either way, Philip Zadina making an ass of himself, like you got to know better. Like
we love to see it.
You love to see it in a very sarcastic way.
In a very sarcastic, hockey players shoot themselves in the foot, making themselves look stupid. Yeah, and it's very funny.
Yeah, it was a bad look, and I guess do you want to get into the Infinity Gauntlet right now? Do you want to hand those out?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get our picks in.
So I'm going to start with you. I want to start with you specifically because I have two people in mind that I feel I could give it to here. But I want to see if you take one of them. So I want to see who you pick first.
Okay. First one, I think I'm going to have to give it to a defenseman. I'm not too sure if I'm going to go with OEL or Kyle Burroughs, because I thought both of them played very well. Just like even to date, not even just specifically the last two games in particular, but just in general through the three games, like I think they've both been like very sturdy, with OEL kind of living up to his contract. He hasn't like had like the egregious skating or pivoting issues that a lot of people were worried about. And Kyle Burroughs, in the sense that he's kind of playing above his weight. Like he's just like this unsung player who plays a safe game, chips in offensively when he can, and doesn't really tend to be caught out with like embarrassing giveaways or fumbles in the defensive zone. And I think he has a pretty good chemistry going with Jack Rathbone. And I'm a big fan of Jack Rathbone. So if Kyle Burroughs is the guy being the steady hand on that pair, then I'm all for that. So those would be my two picks. What about yourself?
All right. So you went with two defensemen. I'm going to go with two forwards here. The first is the guy we just talked about, Conor Garland. Particularly because of that game against the Red Wings, he was very good. He was. It seemed like for most of that night, he was one of the guys who was making anything happen at all in some points. Like there were just some points where the Canucks could not muster a damn thing going. And Conor Garland seemed to be the only one. And I would say as well, I'll throw Nils Höglander in there as well. They seem to be the only two that were making an impact in that game. Garland had that very nice goal on Greiss that it was a perfect shot. It was a very smart heads up play of knowing that, Greiss is going to cheat off the post a little bit here. I can see that room in between his mask and the post. I can catch him and take that shot and have it deflected in. And then of course the whole thing, not just with like the Zadina thing, but also like, first of all, Zadina hit was clean. It was totally clean.
Oh yeah, it's clean as shit.
If we hadn't clarified that already, it was a perfectly fine hit. There's nothing wrong with it.
It was so great.
Yeah, he backed up into him, Zadina ran head first into him. Like you, that's you. That's you're the one who sees the play. That's your job to not put yourself in that spot. It's one thing if you've got your back to the guy and then he hits you. It's another thing when you're go head first into another guy and then blame him for you getting hurt. And he didn't even get that hurt. He came back in the game. And then there were which of course the entire thing set the Red Wings off for the rest of the night. There was also the thing where Garland finished on the offside call, like he tapped the puck in. Like it was like
that was so bad. I guess we'll get into that later.
Which is I'll talk about it a little bit here. Just like stupid. It was stupid. Like it's stupid that the Red Wings got so mad about that. And then and you saw like Tyler Bertuzzi kept going after Garland like every time he was out there, and it's like, I forget who tweeted it. Somebody made the very funny tweet of Tyler Bertuzzi's making a lot of noise for a guy who's not going to play the next time these two teams meet. And I thought that was hilarious. Somebody being Mr. Tough Guy for a guy who also won't take a tiny needle.
He's setting up his team to have to fight all his battles for him when he inevitably cannot cross the border to play in
like a good teammate does. Everybody loves that teammate who makes you all do his stuff for him. And that whole game, basically the Red Wings completely gave up on even trying to help Thomas Greiss at that point. And the Canucks had a bunch of opportunities in the late stages, basically just because of that. And the other player I'm going to give it to, as we segue, I think, into the Philly game a little bit, is the man who scored his very first NHL goal, Vasily Podkolzin. That was awesome.
Yeah, he might have earned it there.
Yeah, that was that. That shot was awesome, and even more awesome was I think like the Canucks as a group have mostly a group of very stoic players. Like they don't really they emote for sure, but they're not crazy emotional about any sort of goals or anything.
Yeah,
you could hear Vasily Podkolzin screaming after he scored. He was.
Yeah. He was hyped.
Thrilled. He was hyped, and you love that. I want to see that emotion. I want guys and I know this is kind of an obvious, comparison because, same country and everything, same, but Alex Ovechkin is a guy who scored 600 goals in his career, or I forget how many at this point. I think 700 now. And it feels like every goal is his first. He celebrates every goal like it's his first one. And so I kind of like that. And I hope Podkolzin doesn't let the mystique of scoring goals at the NHL level fade for him. I hope we get celebrations like that from him all the time, because that was fun. That was very cool.
It's also nice to have someone on the team that likes to celebrate and isn't afraid of going hard, because the last time the team had someone like that, they traded him for a fourth liner who will never score goals until the end of the season when it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, and let's be clear here, I don't think they traded him because of the celebrations. They didn't,
but it just happened to be the one guy.
It happened to be that one guy who actually
the guy that gets traded.
Yeah. And you heard Elias Pettersson talking about it after the game, talking about the goal and how he's like, oh, it really reminded me of my first goal. And somebody mentioned they're basically identical. What's wild about those two goals, Pettersson's first goal and Podkolzin's, is they are almost identical goals, because both of them, they're coming off that right wing. They have a pass option. They just on the odd man rush, and they decide to shoot it from the circle, and it goes in, and it goes in far side. Literally, if Podkolzin had just done it a day earlier, a game earlier, he would have done it against the exact same goalie in Mike Smith. That's how close to eerily similar those goals were, and that was pretty cool too.
For his sake, it's probably for the best that didn't happen though, because could you imagine everyone being like, he's exactly like Pettersson?
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden his expectations like fly through the roof. So it's probably for the best that he didn't. But nonetheless,
temper
good on him. It was great seeing all the players like coming out on their Instagram and calling him the Russian bear, and cool. And like saying "Do it for Mother Russia." Like that was really funny. Like all of that young core, like IG posting the exact same thing. Too funny. Yeah. Have to appreciate that. I guess the one downside from the 2 weekend games obviously was the officiating especially in the Detroit game. There was that offside call the icing call on Matthew Highmore, which was blown when the two players were like just over the Detroit blue line. And for whatever, or was that the Philly game?
That was the Philly game.
Okay, so the Philly game, yeah.
Because they were leading by, so they had, so what happened is they had the
still had the one goal.
Yeah, they had the original 2-goal lead. Flyers pulled the goalie. They get the first goal. Okay, not good. Whatever.
Yeah.
Then the Canucks shoot the puck at the empty net. It misses. Highmore is, if there's one thing Highmore is very good at, he's very quick.
Yeah.
He gets to he beats the Flyers he gets to the Flyers player as they're at the hash marks. Or like before the hash marks or something.
Yeah. They're battling above the circle, basically racing towards the puck, and
which has ricocheted back towards them, basically, and the ref blows it down, which is not what you're supposed to do in that case. What you're supposed to do as the referee is you're still supposed to see which of them gets to the hash marks first, basically. Yeah. Or at that point, it's far enough away from the end boards that it's the whistle, that the icing's already dead, that it's already cancels out the icing. Because the idea of that rule is essentially just to prevent what used to happen, where the trailing player would smack into the guy right against the boards at like the red line and cause a lot of dangerous plays, a lot of like potential injury. And so ref completely whiffs on that, like 100%. And then the way I put it on Twitter was like, that's bad, and the referee completely screwed that up, but that still doesn't excuse the fact that Claude Giroux was left wide open on that left side. You can't do that. You just can't.
It's still bad, but it was just like the situation that precipitated it, like clearly was like a blown call. And if that icing doesn't get called, like then the Canucks are set up inside the offensive zone and they can reset or rejig whatever defensive group they want, right? Like they have control, whereas they were robbed of that ability to have control, and the game goes to the shootout. And I mean,
they still win.
But it's like kind of like like you were saying, like you still gave points to an opponent, even if they're in a different conference. Like you don't really want to be giving up loser points.
Yeah, exactly. It's you want to see them be able to close out games. Like we have the shot in the notes of Oliver Ekman-Larsson in the box. Like, because I think he was in the box for the Flyers 1-goal game. There it is, right in the corner there. If you're watching the YouTube video, you can see it. And you hear him, and you like, OEL screaming at the ref for I guess a bad call. He doesn't agree with the call. But yeah, like the fact of the matter is the Canucks had a 2-goal lead and they let it go very quickly.
Yeah, this is where we kind of like raise some eyebrows at the coaching decisions, because Travis Green did say after the fact in the post-game media that he was looking for a very specific matchup for the Vasily Podkolzin line, and he was never getting it. So therefore it appeared like his bench was being very shortened, which is very bizarre when you are holding a 2-goal lead with like 10 minutes to go in the third period.
Right.
But at that point, like Podkolzin didn't step foot on the ice in the third period in a game in which he scored his first NHL goal. So like a part of me is kind of like matchups be damned. Like you're not doing your team any favors by exhausting them so much by running them back to back. So that was a bit bizarre, and also plays into the like you didn't really deserve to win the game if you're screwing your own self out of 2 points.
Yeah, we know Travis Green is tough on the rookies, like a lot of the time, and particularly when they make egregious like errors and sort of things. Like a lot of the time that it gets them stable to the bench, but that didn't happen for Podkolzin. He didn't have a moment where it was like, oh, that was a huge gaffe he just made. Like, no, he didn't have that. He was doing just fine the entire game. Like, there was no play like even close to that where he was like clearly made a huge gaffe. And so it did feel like, I will say, like, that particular benching felt like a different one compared to the ones we normally see, particularly like from the guys that Travis Green has often benched in the past. Guys like McEwen, Stetcher got the short end of the
Gadjevich got the treatment in his debut.
Goldobin was a really well-known example of that, where he would get benched quite a few times.
One poor play and be benched the entire game.
Willie Desjardins did that a lot as well with Goldobin. But yeah, it was so that one felt a little bit different, especially like after the fact when you hear like Travis Green talked about, like, I actually told Vasily that I thought he was going to score before the game. So and it turned out to be true. So that was kind of funny. Overall, in that game in particular, like, I will say I liked what I saw from the Canucks in the second period. Like, I think overall they were doing a really good job. Like, they smelled blood in the water when they had it at that time. And particularly with Carter Hart, who is a goaltender that is very good when he's playing at his best, but when his confidence is shaken, things go very wrong.
Things go very wrong and look very, very bad.
Yeah, and in that second period, they completely took advantage of a guy who was not feeling very good about himself at that time. Like, because again, this is his first game since last season where he had a bad year. So you knew he was going to come in jittery. If any flyer was going to come in, not like with that, like, full confidence, ready to go kind of thing, first game of the season, home opener, like, energy, it was going to be Carter Hart. And immediate, like, and after you get the Podkolzin goal, then you get Pettersson behind the net, sees Carter Hart not sealing off that post, not using those post integrations.
Don't even get me started on the post integration.
I know how much you love your post integrations, Cody.
My RVH for sure.
Yeah, your V8, your V8.
My reverse Audi VH.
Yeah. You're a big fan of those things.
I am a big fan of these things.
Yes. And Pettersson literally banks it off Carter Hart's back and in. And it's like, as soon as that goes in, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a night for Carter Hart. This is going to be a rough night for him. And then sure enough, like, you get the chase on goal, or sorry, the chai son goal.
The chase on, the chai tea latte son.
I know spell check can't be done on jerseys, but like,
like a cursory glance, you know?
Yeah, because it looks immediately off, right? Like, it clearly looks in. It's one of those things where, like, it doesn't always look like, it's not always obvious, but that one, it was. Like, that one was very clearly, there's definitely something wrong here, and then you figure it out. Like, I think Frank Saravelli pointed it out from the press box, which is a long ways off from the ice.
That was great, because like a lot of fans, like, on Twitter started tweeting in being like, yep, it's still wrong, and then like their on ice picture of the jersey, it's just like, oh.
I will say I appreciated the social media team being like, even though even though his name's spelled wrong, good for Alex Chason. Like they leaned into it.
Yeah, they kind of leaned into a bit, like, kind of save face, like, ha, oops. Sorry.
I mean, obviously they don't have any control over that one, but like, it is funny, particularly because the social media teams had a few blunders like that in the past.
Yes.
In fact, I think somebody even caught, like, this is not even Canuck related. This is a Rogers mistake. I think in the pre-show for that game, somebody, Podkolzin's name was actually spelt like Podkolzin or something.
There was no D.
Yeah, they missed the D on the name.
I feel like it was the Canucks lineup chart that they tweet out, I think.
No, well, Rogers, like, it was on the Sportsnet graphic on the broadcast. They showed like his picture and like the little thing under Dan Murphy as he's talking, and it says Podkolzin or something. It's missing the D.
That's what I'm talking about.
It was and that's like, so just a lot of spelling errors in the early going for the Canucks, which look, if spelling mistakes are your worst problem, that's you're doing okay.
You'll take it.
That's fine.
It was just kind of funny, like, on the weekend when they finally spell Artur Silov's name correctly on his jersey, they screw up, like,
it's not even that hard.
Well, like, I thought this was weird too, because it's like, it's Alex Chason, right? But Like,
The pronunciation I see. Like, I see with the pronunciation why you might go Chai-son kind of thing.
But it's the same Canucks equipment manager, and they've had like three to four preseason games spelling Chason right, and then
so it was just clearly one error. Like, it was clearly just one mistake, right? Like, it was clearly just one accidental. Somebody put the A and flipped the A and the I, and it just happened that way. And I think even in the third period they had it fixed, right?
He
had a fixed jersey, so it was like, okay,
they're like, this is making us look really stupid. We got to fix this.
Yeah, so they fixed it.
Yeah,
so which is good. But yeah, it was pretty funny seeing like the pictures that people taking of Chai-son. It was
as a big fan.
Yeah, big fan.
I guess other than the Infinity Blocker players, guess now the Canucks turn their attention to another leading team from the NHL's Eastern Conference in the Buffalo Sabres. That are actually on a win streak.
Yep, they're 2-0. Unless they're playing today and we've missed a result. Like,
I don't think they. I feel like
I don't think they have a game today either.
The Canucks, yeah.
I don't think they have a game today either. But yeah, they're
second in the division with a +5 goal advantage right now, or goal differential,
which
good
is
for them.
Not nothing. That's pretty good.
Pretty good for a team without Jack Eichel and like nothing else.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and no goaltending. Actually, that's not true. They have Craig Anderson, who is actually, like, frankly, he's the perfect goaltender for that kind of situation. Like, I think you and I have talked about Craig Anderson before on the show in past years, where, like, specifically in regards to the difference between him and, like, Matt Murray when they were playing the Senators a lot last year.
Yeah.
Where Craig Anderson is literally a guy you can pepper him with 60 shots a night, and he is golden for you. He is a very sturdy goaltender as far as that's concerned. So which is why he's really such a good fit for the Sabres of all teams. But yeah, talk about like karma not showing up at the right times. Like, the Sabres are doing Jack Eichel so dirty right now, and they've been punished for that with a 2-0 lead with a 2-0 start.
This is actually indeed good karma, or good karma against the Sabres ownership and management group, because for the way they're treating Jack Eichel, the fact that in the year when they are so very clearly trying to intentionally tank for Connor Bedard, it makes perfect sense that they would have their best start in probably 10 years. So I hope the win streak continues, just to spite their attempts at being a failure for a good draft pick.
They go 82-0 and then get swept in the first round. That would be pretty funny. That would be great karma. Like, it's just immediately, it's like, oh, who are we playing first? Oh, we're playing the Tampa Bay Lightning.
And then the Rangers win first overall, so they get Connor Bedard, the guy they were after.
Yeah, it's somebody in division. Yeah. Like, in the same way that, like, of course, when Connor McDavid was up for grabs, of course he went to Edmonton, so the Canucks were like, like, he was going to be in division for them. They're winning with a team like they have a couple, like, the Sabres have a few good pieces. They have obviously Jeff Skinner is better than last year, I think, indicated, or like that contract. Like, he's not, maybe he can't live up to that contract, but he is still a good hockey player as far as, like, objectively a good player. Dylan Cousins is a really good up and coming player. Like, you saw him in the World Juniors for Canada the last few years. He's clearly a very good hockey player. And Victor Olofsson has had a few like pretty good moments. He's a little bit of an older guy, actually, which is kind of surprising because he was in the Calder conversation the year Elias Pettersson, or the year after, the Hughes year. He was in in the Calder conversation for quite a while, but he's actually, I believe, like 26. I think he's
he was older. When they drafted him, it was in the 7th round, and I think he was a 2-year overager at that point. So they drafted him when he was 20, and then he spent 4 years in like the junior Allsvenskan before finally hitting the SHL when he was like 23, 24, 25 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then
one of the few Sabres that have worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of like why Canucks fans are always like, this regime needs to take as many flyers and picks as possible, because you want to find your Victor Olofssons, like guys who cost you nothing and come in and score, 30 points in their first season, or 40 points in Victor Olofsson's case. And that's after a season where he lit up the AHL with something like 30 goals in his debut, and most of them were against the Canucks farm team. So that's kind of what they need to find, right? Like they need those lottery picks, and so you can just keep rounding out your team that way. Victor Olofsson's good. He's sneaky good.
Yeah, and especially like again for a Sabres team that often it seems like every player they touch turns to dust the second they put on the jersey, right? It seems like it's a curse.
Yeah.
For Olofsson to have like shown up for them really well has been pretty good. The goaltending, I'm interested to see how Dustin Tokarski does long term. I think Craig Anderson's probably going to play against the Canucks because I think Tokarski played the last game against Arizona. Their defense is still like clearly a mess. Like you've got Rasmus Dahlin, but they do have Will Buchter. They've added Will Buchter in the offseason. And I think and Colin Miller is another player that I think is a little better than his Sabres tenure has indicated thus far. One thing I would be interested to see going into this game is the idea of maybe Yaroslav Halak playing again. If the Sabres weren't 2-0, I think the odds would be a little bit higher that that's going to happen.
Sure.
But I think the Canucks are already because they are 1-1 and the Sabres are 2-0. I think they're already a little weary about the idea of like we don't want to risk throwing in the backup for a game that should win.
They need to win
really should need to win going into the because right now the way that things are trending for them, you don't want to give up another 2 points. Even if it isn't.
I mean,
even if they're not at dire, they can. They can totally afford it. But like thinking in like from a team management standpoint, they're probably already a little bit like concerned.
Yeah. Let's take the easy wins when we can get them, right? Let's not leave it up to chance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. With and like if you want to touch a little bit on Halak with in the Detroit game, I thought he was actually like okay. Like he I know in the early going he was like shaky, like it was, and I know I've said this I think I said this on Twitter during the game that Halak, from what I've seen over him in his career, he's a guy that thrives on playing in games where he's getting peppered with a lot of shots. He's also kind of like Craig Anderson in that way, where he does, the more shots you throw at him, the better he gets, which was pretty much indicated by how he improved in that game versus Detroit as it got farther into the closer to the final horn.
Right.
And then the other thing being the fact that the Canucks are clearly, it's very obvious the Canucks have not had a puck handling goaltender in a long time, because every time Halak went and did it, everyone panicked. Like it was
they
an
had like no
tire
idea
fire.
What to do. It was really funny.
Because looking back on every goaltender since Luongo got here, basically, all of those guys do not play the puck unless it's like the safest or like the final resort kind of thing. They're not those kinds of guys who go out of their way like Halak does.
Anyway, yeah. So the Canucks' last goaltender who really went out of their way to play the puck was Jacob Markstrom, and he almost did that just with like a sense of flair, like for shits and gigs.
Yeah. Even then, it was very rare. Like it wasn't that often with him.
Yeah, it was very seldom that he actually did it. But Halak was just like, I think I can leave my net at this moment. I'm going to do it. Like he was like playing like Marty Brodeur style. I'm leaving. I'm going to play as the third defenseman and play the puck. And everyone on the ice just like looked terrified every time he did it. Like they did not know how to react to what he was doing. It was pretty great. It's pretty funny.
They had not planned for that. I'm trying to rack my brain to the last time the Canucks had anyone like that on the team. And my head is coming up with like Johan Hedberg, I think was kind of a little bit of a flight risk when the puck was close. I think Dan Cloutier kind of did it a little bit too, but even then I don't think he played the puck relatively often.
Yeah, he left his crease to either play the puck or to get into fights.
Yeah. It was usually to get in a fight. The Canucks just haven't had a lot of those goalies in there, at least in the recent history of the team.
Yeah.
Although that being said, of course, Dan Cloutier, Johan Hedberg, I don't think have been around for almost 20 years now.
Yeah,
so it's
been a while.
It's been a while.
there's been some changes in the Canucks play style since those two were the goaltenders for the Canucks.
Thank God for that. They've gotten much. I like to believe that they have gotten better since then.
That's for sure. Other Canucks related news that surrounded this weekend. Just a quick hitter on this one, because this was a bit jarring to read about. I saw this late Saturday morning, but Jim Benning's daughter Danica posted a IG post, like an update, saying that her brother and her were outside of a Vancouver nightclub in Yaletown when they were attacked impromptu by 4 random individuals, and they sent Danica's brother Jim's son to the hospital, just like an unprompted, no clue why attack, which is pretty horrific and ridiculous. Yeah. And I mean, I haven't been downtown in like
a long time,
ages, obviously because of COVID, but even then, like, I do remember at times, like at that certain hour, that 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. range is when you get all the ultra drunk weirdos, especially on the weekend, where people are just out there looking to get up to no good, basically. And it's unfortunate that it happened to Jim's son, especially in like a really important year for him, where he's already dealing with like the Travis Hamnick situation, which we'll get into. Big overhaul of his team, the AHL franchise coming to Abbotsford. Like, this is and the expansion draft. Like, I can only imagine how stressful this year already is if you're the GM of the Vancouver Canucks, let alone you add something completely random and different like this to the mix. Like, that's
something
horrendous.
Far more serious. I think you and I
far more important, far more serious, but just like even more like brutality to this season for Jim. So the CreaseCast obviously wishes all the best to his family. That is like horrendous, and hopefully it's nothing too serious and his son comes out of this okay.
Yeah, I believe he didn't, like, I think I saw recently like an update or something where he said he was fine. Kind of like it was one of those, like they went to the hospital, but then he, like, his son, like the son was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need anything. Good. Or something like that. Hopefully it's not that serious. Yeah. And yeah, it's awful. And I'm not gonna put any like I'm not gonna say like the exactly what I've been seeing like on social media from certain people,
certain former show hosts of the Vancouver market.
Yes, I'm not going, because again, like you said, I think this is, it seems like this is just a very random thing that happened.
Yeah.
So, but like, yeah, and in a way, you hope it is. Like, you hope it was just a completely random, unknowing like thing, because the other option there would be very, very shitty and like supremely shitty.
Beyond supremely shitty.
It like there's so it seems like it's not, so that's good. So, but at the very least, like, you honestly, all that matters is that people, that he's okay, that they're both okay, I should say. Because obviously, like, even if, like, it's shaking, it's jarring when that sort of thing happens to you. And for obviously for Jim and his family, like, you hope they're doing okay right now, and you're thinking about them right now.
As I kind of touched on, the other development obviously with the Canucks this past weekend, actually today, really, an update on the Travis Hamnick situation. Cap Friendly tweeted out saying that Travis Hamonic has officially got a $0 cap hit for this year, which means he must be suspended without pay. There was some nuance added later saying that it was like a mutual absence agreement between the player and the team, according to Jim Benning or whoever it was.
I think
PR
put the statement out. Yeah,
basically just trying to be like, don't read it, don't look into this, please don't ask questions, just accept that what we're doing is fine. Travis Hamonic will be on leave of absence until his personal issues are sorted. Please don't read into this, please don't ask us questions. I don't know how many times this organization tries the sweep it under the rug and hope no one asks questions approach.
You think that
before realizing it doesn't work.
Yeah, you think they'd have learned by now that, especially in this market, that's not gonna fly. Like, and it's I don't know how they're doing Travis Hamonic any favors by doing this, by trying to sweep it under the rug kind of thing. Because like if the whole thing, like if it's exactly what they say, like exactly what the team is saying, and it's just a personal matter, like it's a completely unrelated personal matter to what we are pretty sure it is, like completely different. They're not doing him any help by refusing to deny the first part. And then also not giving any sort and being like any sort of like help in regards to what it is to leave me. Because it was like, because remember, there were a couple seasons ago, Jacob Markstrom took a leave of absence because his father passed away during that season. And at that time, I remember it was dealt with very differently. Like that was dealt with in a situation where it was made clear enough that it's something that should not be touched on right now by the media, and we all understood that it was that kind of serious level. And they handled it very well in that case. And they did very well by Jacob Markstrom and did a very good job with him. Whereas this time it's completely different. This time it feels like they're really making it as hard as possible on not just everyone who wants to know why he's not there, but also on the guy who's not there and to themselves.
And the player.
Like they're making it harder on themselves for no reason here. And it's a case of like, so even like today, because like what's important to note is the cap friendly thing came out first. The cap friendly thing where they're like, hey, we have it on pretty good authority that Vancouver's cap, he is currently counting $0 towards, which means that he is suspended without pay. And then I don't know who asked him, but I know Rob Williams from Daily Hive, Rob the Hockey Guy, tweeted that when Travis Green was asked about it this morning, he said, that's not what I've been told. That's not what I heard, or like, that's not true. Something like that. And suspended. And then the Canucks came out with their statement basically saying, he's not suspended. He's this is a mutual thing. And then at which point, like I forget exactly what the wording is. Maybe if you can pull it up, that would be we should because the wording's important. But then like Cap Friendly came out basically and said that whether or not this is what they're saying it is, the way that the only way how the NHL CBA is set up, any situation where the player is not actively on the roster and is also not being paid is considered suspended without pay. Like that, and that is considered like it doesn't matter what the situation is. So the Canucks basically were trying to say this is completely untrue when no, it still is, which is again true. Causing yourself more problems than you need to. Like you could very easily say, yes, this is a suspension without pay. It's like, even if they literally just said he is suspended without pay, but not with like malice intent kind of thing, like one of those situations that might, whether or not that's like true, it's still better than what we got out of them here. Like this was a very weird, like it was very much this just makes even more questions. Like,
yeah, like you're saying with the Markstrom situation, that one was handled very well because obviously it's a bit different now because there's so much like secrecy involved with players' personal health decisions and their rights to not, be public with what they choose to do regarding vaccinations.
Yeah.
Whereas the Markstrom situation was serious enough where they were just like, yeah, Markstrom is gone right now. We'd respect if everyone left this alone until the appropriate time. And everyone kind of knew like it was a serious idea or a serious thing and best not to pry or investigate.
They said enough to make it clear like what was going on without saying anything, right? Like they did a very good job of basically giving as much information as they possibly could without doing Jacob Markstrom a disservice. And that was important. This one
is completely different because the situation started off poorly right from the get-go, in which the team said, Jim Benning had said, it's so funny listening back to it, but it's like Jim Benning was like, Travis Hamonic will be here tomorrow at camp. And then a week goes by and he is not there. People ask Jim, is the team vaccinated or 100% vaccinated? Because this is at the time when every team was coming out and being like, yeah, we're 100% vaccinated. Woo! And he said, everyone that's here is 100% vaccinated.
Basically, all but implying who
implying that the people not at camp are the ones not vaccinated. And the only person not at camp was
outside of Brandon
Travis
Sutter.
Hamnick.
Yeah. And Sutter has had as far as we know, is vaccinated. So like, yeah.
It's like putting up on the chalkboard 2 + 2 equals, and then
being
instead
told,
of
no,
putting
it's 5,
4, they put 3 and say, 3. Don't ask about it.
Don't ask like, where the 4 went, where the extra one went.
Yeah, like he did himself, he did the team 0 favors by basically setting the ground rules from the get-go by stating that Travis Hamnick would be there within the next 24 hours. Like,
and
I don't
know
hindsight,
whether
it's
that was like
why
his decision or if that was like PR going to him. Like if PR told him to do that, they did him a bad. They did him a little dirty there. They did Jim dirty on that because they should not. You shouldn't give, or if they, I don't know what the relationship is like there. But because obviously like a new PR person, like a new like head of like public relations, I believe, or like media relations, I forget exactly what the terms are for them. But like Jim is obviously a guy who, he is sometimes, he is not PR. PR should not be his job at all.
No, he's not a great communicator in general, and especially with this issue. Like if Travis Hamonic is anti-vax, and that's the reason why he is suspended without pay, which all evidence points to that being the actual case.
There could be another part, but that's definitely
there could be more to it. Like he might be like, I'm not going to get vaccinated until my daughter can get vaccinated. Like you don't know, but the point is, he has the ability to get a shot and be at camp, and he obviously doesn't because he's not in fucking BC, and they've suspended him for it. If they knew this ahead of time, why wouldn't they have said, don't say he's coming to camp tomorrow because we cannot confirm, and B, we'll have a prepared statement in the event that he doesn't show up. One, that doesn't make you look stupid, doesn't make the team look stupid, and doesn't force the media into prying or playing this weird fence-sitting game where people are trying to like defend Travis Hamnick's right to not be vaccinated or defend his right to not be at camp. It's just like this, they've created this gray area situation while at the same time clearly painting a picture that indicates what the situation is.
Yeah.
And
they've been given 30,000 opportunities to say he's vaccinated if they want.
They could have done it in today's statement too.
Yeah. They could have. They could very easily have said it, made all of it go away like very quickly. And what they're doing instead is not only are they giving a lot of not only are they again causing more issues probably for Travis Hamnick already than he is already dealing with by not just being upfront about what's going on. They're also giving credit, they're giving not credit, I guess. They're giving certain people the idea see, it has nothing to do with vaccinations because they haven't said anything, because they refuse to say what it actually is. Yeah. And they refuse to directly say that thing. They're giving a lot of leash to people and to people following the story, being oh, see, it has nothing to do with that and everyone should leave it alone. It's you don't know that though. You don't know that. We have good I get that we admit that we don't 100% know with complete certainty that it is what we think it is.
Yeah.
But we have it on good enough authority at this point that we kind of know
if
it's
I want to point out to a tweet from Samantha CP_ on Twitter.
This is a very good thread.
Someone, Earl Schwartz, replied to her basically saying the last time someone in the NHL was suspended or terminated for, extraneous reasons and suspended without pay was Jake Dotchin when he showed up to camp in Tampa Bay overweight.
I remember that. That was a weird one. I think he also,
that was a weird one.
That it had happened enough times before that it had been a problem, I think.
I believe it wasn't like a one-time thing and they decided
No.
to suspend him. It was like a pattern of him doing the same thing at camp. If only the Canucks did that with Jake Virtanen. But anyway, when it comes to the Canucks situation, it's like if it is indeed a personal situation with Travis Hamonic that they want to keep under wraps and they want to support him and help him, suspended without pay isn't exactly the outcome I would have expected for something like that. Samantha CP brought up the whole Jonathan Drouin thing when he took his indefinite leave of absence with the Canadiens to deal with an anxiety related issue and insomnia related issues. They put him on LTIR and he was paid.
And in that case as well, it was a thing where we didn't know what it was at the time, but the Canadiens did enough PR to say, hey, this is they said as much as they possibly could without giving up what it was.
Yeah.
But enough that the media knew that the media and the media in Montreal, if you guys are aware, is notoriously very intense. Like it's very intense if they don't get the answers they want. Like if you think it's intense in Vancouver, in Montreal, it's like a whole other thing. It's to the oomph degree.
Yeah.
But they said enough to the Montreal media to know that the Montreal media was like, oh, we said it. We're going to leave it. Okay, we get it. We're going to leave this alone. We are totally going to leave this alone. And they did. Yeah. Maybe a few bad apples didn't, but like overall, the group, overall they went, oh, we understand here that this is different. And
no one pulled the Steve Simmons and was like, I've found Jonathan Drouin's medical records and this is what he's dealing with. They didn't do that. So they obviously followed whatever it was the team was saying.
Yeah. And again, like you mentioned, he got paid. The Canadiens were a team that are always up against the cap, always have, always very much there, could use every dollar they can, but they didn't use that to take away his income because he was dealing with something serious, and something that if they would have been extremely bad had they taken they not paid him to be away from the team at that time.
They understood that the personal issues he was dealing with were serious enough that it warranted not a suspension without pay, but something that needed their support.
It warranted actual help and support. Yeah.
Yeah. The Hamonic being suspended without pay tells me they do not believe or agree with what he's doing. That's the bottom line.
It tells you enough that what he is doing, it goes against helping the team because they can't, because the other thing, tweet in that thread as well that Sam pointed out, is that to suspend a guy without pay, to get that $0 put on the books, you have to be able to prove it. You have to be able to prove that it is that there is cause. You have to be able to prove cause for that the player is doing something detrimental to the team to warrant this, because otherwise the NHLPA could come after you and the player could come after you and sue and essentially file a lawsuit with you, right?
Right.
So you have to be able to prove with full certainty that what they're doing is against protocol for your team.
Yeah.
Which would imply that it's something that with Travis Hamonic, the thing that he is doing is against protocol. We, again, are pretty sure we know what that is.
Yes.
But we can't say it because the team won't.
Yeah.
It's a very easy thing that they could make go away so quickly. And yet we're dealing with it anyway. I don't understand.
Yeah. I think that's
we spent a lot longer we spent longer on it than we meant to.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. We'll quickly get into the AHL. Abbotsford Canucks had their season debut this past weekend.
Their franchise debut, if you will.
Franchise official debut, back-to-back weekend against Bakersfield and the Ontario Reign. Not the best performances. They came away with a regulation loss and a shootout win against the Ontario Reign and Bakersfield, respectively. The kind of shades of the lightning fast 2019-20 team, the run and gun team that would all scoring, all action, but would get caved in their own zone most of the time. very reminiscent of that team. A lot of prolonged periods sitting in the D zone, just watching the other team cycle and
Mikey
dominate.
DiPietro,
And Mikey DiPietro and Artur Silovs coming up huge for the team as much as possible. Mikey ended the game with something like an 850 save percentage, which wasn't great. Artur Silovs finished his game with like a 940 save percentage. So it was a tale of two different results for the farm team. But big highlight, of course, Danila Klimovich, the Canucks' most recent draft pick, being a goal per game pace as an 18-year-old in the league. That's pretty legit. His shot looks unreal. He's got a ton to work on, though. Like, I know people are really jacked about his hands and like his shot, but oh man, like just the battle level, the compete, the engagement, like it's just not there at all.
Not yet, no.
So I can see people like already tweeting now, like after 2 games, being like, "Call him up, let's give him a shot in the NHL." Yeah. It's like, no, you can't do that yet. I'm telling you,
it's not worth it.
If people thought like Nikolai Goldobin and Jake Virtanen were like lazy on engagement, like
oh wow,
battle,
you're going here, okay.
He's young and raw, right? Like he's
18. He has lots of time to work on this.
His strong suit is shooting and doing crisp puck moves and scoring goals. His bread and butter is not like tenacity and staying on checks and trying to strip pucks and whatever. Like he just doesn't know that yet because he's so young.
And also probably like, wasn't he like a leading scorer on his team in the Belarusian men's league? Like, wasn't he like a really big?
I don't think so. I feel like he was a low scorer. The only reason he got attention was because he had a strong U18s when he was like scoring like crazy in that tournament. That's the only reason why he was really noticed. Otherwise, he was on a lot of teams like he wasn't even on their radar because his scoring profile was so like
out of whack.
Like lax. Yeah.
Okay.
That U18 tournament pretty much put him on the map and is why the Canucks were so high on him.
Interesting. Because I mean, yeah, like I'll say this, like it's hard to find guys who can shoot that well that quickly. That is something. For sure.
As an 18-year-old,
you can teach the other things. You can definitely teach the other things. Like it's one thing to have that kind of NHL ready shot at 18 and have years to work to make it even better. Mm-hmm. The other parts of like the tenacity stuff, that's stuff that you can develop. Like that's clearly
that's stuff you figure out as you play in the AHL and you figure out what it takes to like win and like get moved up the lineup and stuff, right?
Exactly.
Like you figure that out as you move along, especially as an 18-year-old where you're also learning a new language and like the North American pro ice. Like you're learning a ton of new stuff in this year. Some players take a lot longer to develop, and I mean there's some players that are currently in the NHL that like took a long time to figure out the AHL at an older age, and he's doing it younger than most have ever done it. So just to all the people out there listening to this, if you're high on Klimovich, I don't blame you. Just pump the brakes a bit. P to B's.
Exactly.
His time will come eventually. Just be happy with what you got so far, but there's still a long road ahead.
Yeah. What is interesting to note, and I don't know if you saw this, Cody, but I believe there was a report from Rick Dollywald, like before we started recording, that I forget exactly, like the Ruin Noranda Huskies, which have his Klimovich's his rights in the CHL, are actually trying to trade them right now and are trying to work with the Canucks and his agent to trade them to another team, which which I don't know where the Huskies are in their like development stage as far as like that team is concerned, like if they're good or not, because if they were not very good, or like if they're like they're like a team that's like on the cusp of something, you can tell they might want to try and just they might feel that he's probably not coming back and that they're trying to recoup an asset.
Let's try to get something.
They're trying to get something for him, which is noteworthy in the sense of like that he potentially just could be here. Like this could be his like he could very much be here for the rest of the year. I think the Canucks have another 7 games before they have to send him to junior to not have his contract roll over essentially or something like that. I think unless I'm mistaken, like I think there's some, like I think it's the same rule that applies at the NHL level where it's like you get your 9-game tryout, if you don't like what you're seeing, you can send them to juniors
then you can assign them to the
without burning a year of their ELC. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's the contract slide or whatever it is, I think.
Yeah. So if the Huskies are trying to trade him, I would imagine that means they feel that they're not getting him back after 9.
Yeah.
Like they already feel that that's the case. It could change.
When an 18-year-old is scoring in back-to-back games in his pro debut, you're probably like, yeah, he's probably not coming to our team.
Yeah, and usually that doesn't happen, and that doesn't happen a lot.
No.
Especially because and this is partially just because of the fact that Klimovich is not from Canada in the States, where the rule is, I believe, that even if you are if you're 18 and can score at the AHL, you have to go back to junior until you're 20, because they don't want Canadian play. Because literally, like, I think Seth Jarvis was the Hurricanes draftee last year, who is lighting it up in the AHL in the short time that he was there. But then as soon as the WHL came back, he had to go back to
Jarvis,
Portland.
right?
Yeah, Seth Jarvis. He had to go back to Portland to finish the season because of those rules. Yeah. So Klimovich is in the rare case there. The two things I wanted to ask you about before we move into like NHL stuff is, one, based on what you've seen from the first 2 games of this group, the Abbotsford team, as far as your expectations were concerned for, like, not a, same coaching staff, but a pretty different roster than the one from last season because of the move to Abbotsford, because of, how many players were the Blues had loaned over last season during the pandemic, all of those things put together. Yeah. How different was the results on the ice to what your expectations were going in?
Honestly, given, like, I'm not as high on the team as I was before. Like, after the team lost Gadjevich and McEwen and kept Highmore and oh god, what's his name? Justin Dowling with the NHL club. A part of me was like, oh, this team's top line in the AHL isn't nearly as good, and their scoring depth isn't nearly as prominent as it was before.
Even though they gained DiGiuseppe and Lockwood?
Yeah. Okay. Because Lockwood isn't really known to me as a scorer in the AHL level. I think he's a really good two-way player, and his skating is what will put him into call-up consideration over his scoring profile. Whereas, like, Phil DiGiuseppe, like, arguably probably could have played in an NHL fourth-line role, but I don't look at him and go like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be scoring 30 goals this year. Like, right now the team is like, they're not that deep. They're very young and inexperienced and have guys playing higher than they arguably should be because of that lack of depth. And their defense group is very, very slow and not heavy on puck movers. Like, their first power play unit is Jet Wu. And Jet Wu is in, like, his first real season of the AHL. And I don't consider him that great of a puck mover, especially not from the blue line. I don't think he has that good of a shot from the point. And
Jet Wu, basically, if he makes the NHL, his comparable is Chris Tanev, at least from a Canucks standpoint. Like, he's a Chris Tanev rather than, say, like an Alex Edler.
I'd say a Kevin Bieksa, if anything.
Okay.
Like, he's a grinder, kind of tough guy defenseman, like, the very safe, kind of reliable on the back end, who can occasionally chip in with shots, but I would not be pegging him as, some guy with, like, elite hands or anything like that. Like, he does skate really well for a defenseman, and, like, he can be a little loosey-goosey on his coverage because he likes to pinch really aggressively up and down the ice, but I just don't think it's his strong suit, even though he does it quite a bit. But other than him, like, I don't think Madison Bowie's particularly good. His pivoting is rough, his skating is rough, and his passing is not there. Ashton Sautner is always a stay-at-home kind of reliable guy. He's not a puck mover. Then it's like Devontae Stevens and Alex Kanek-Leipert, who are very inexperienced at the AHL level. Like, it's not a good decor whatsoever. And so my expectations, like, when I kind of saw, like, the finalized roster, like, severely dropped, where I was like, okay, this team will be lucky to, scrape by.
Is Noah Juleson, is he playing? Is he playing already?
He's playing, and he's like a really reliable kind of Luke
Okay.
Schenn type of the AHL. Like he's a big body, drops for shot blocks all the time, plays very physical, like has a good board and out, good first pass, like whatever. But like none of these guys are like a Jack Rathbone or a Brogan Rafferty who have the scoring touch at the AHL level. And so because of that, because they can't activate off of their blue line, there's very little offense coming. There's very like the cycle is very poor.
Yeah.
Granted, it's only been 2 games, so maybe that changes by tomorrow even, right?
Yeah, that changes as they more games.
Yeah, the more games, the more chemistry, the more time they spend together, the better things will start to click for them. I just have serious doubts that it'll happen because I just know what happens when a team can't activate its blue line to help out in the offensive zone. It forces your forwards to do a lot more, and it opens you up to odd man rushes because too much is happening in like below the hash marks to try and make something happen because your defense can't filter a shot through traffic. And that's all I've seen through 2 games. It's just those 3-man rushes into the offensive zone, shots that go wide, and then odd man rush the other way, which hopefully it fixes itself out. Not the Comets, but the Canucks are very fortunate that they have 2 very young and exciting dynamic goaltenders in Silovs and DiPietro. Silovs looked very good, which I'm sure David Quadrelli loves because Silovs is his boy. DiPietro is also his boy too, but I think Silovs he loves even more. So this was a great weekend for him.
Just loves all the goalies and just wants all the goalies to do well.
You hear the term goalie and you get like butterflies
sold.
in your stomach.
Oh, goalie sold. Like I'm butterfly style. Did you say no? I correct me if I'm wrong here, but I imagine prior to training camp, if I'm Ryan Johnson, GM of the Abbotsford Canucks, or Trent Cull, head coach, I imagine I was banking pretty heavily on one of Olli or Kyle Burroughs or making their way to Abbotsford to start the year. I imagine that they probably were expecting at least one of them to play at the AHL to come back to the AHL to play. Instead, one's been traded and the other one was needed because of Travis Hamonic not being here to stay at on the NHL team and do very well. By the way, Kyle Burroughs has done very well.
Kyle Burroughs earlier playing really good. But their depth obviously took a hit too when Brady Keeper broke his leg in preseason. That's
right.
Camp,
I forgot about that entirely. Jeez.
So they're tough too. They're really hurting at the NHL level for right side depth, but
they lost 3 defensemen. They lost 3 defensemen in the span of a week.
And not just like defensemen, like just like the Zach McEwens of defense, but like guys that they were probably really counting on to play considerable games for them this year.
Yep.
And Luke Schenn's weak preseason obviously didn't endear him to the coaching staff. And a guy with 3 professional games to his name has so far earned the ice time over him, which. Yep.
And they don't want to send Schenn down, obviously, because that's a huge.
They can't afford to lose another body, right? They just
that'd be a massive gamble, especially with his resume. And then obviously, they have Rathbone made the team and was probably going to make the team regardless. Yeah. But like that still took like a shot in the foot for them. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about. So the first game you covered, for people who don't actually, who don't know like the behind the scenes for your work specifically, this is a whole new setup for you, not just because of the fact that the team plays in Abbotsford now, but because last year they were playing the AHL. You were playing in the Eastern Conference. I should even go back the whole time. The whole time you were covering the Utica Comets, they played exclusively either teams in the Eastern Conference with the occasional game in the against a Central Division team on the West. Like it was very rare that there was any crossover there, especially with the Pacific Division where they are now. They never played. The Utica Comets never played a single game against the Pacific Division team because of the travel issues with that.
Yeah.
And so you've gone from essentially having to watch, like knowing more or less the teams that you were seeing on a nightly basis, like with the Syracuse Crunch, with like the Providence Bruins, et cetera, et cetera. This is a whole new division of teams like Bakersfield, San Jose, Stockton, like Ontario, obviously the other night, a whole new group for you. And two things you had to deal with. One being this based on exactly based on a new division and everything, and the other just being your own damn fault. Was the first thing on your first game was I guess Bakersfield does not have the best camera setup, so you had to deal with that.
Yeah.
Which was, I'm sure, like
that was incredibly tilting. Just like I clipped the first play and I could not read the player nameplates or their numbers on their jerseys, and I was just fucking fuming trying to, because obviously
it wasn't an internet issue either. It was
no,
just
it's
like
not internet. It's just like they are filming on camcorders from like 1997 or something. They are just the worst quality, and so my entire game day recaps is surrounding upon clipping each play and describing who's in the play, what their number is, and what happens in the sequence. But it's hard to do that when you can't even tell who's holding the puck, who gives up the puck to who, this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. So I spent 25 to 30 minutes trying to figure out the first clip of a 3-hour long game as it unfolded live. And then in the process of doing that, I had ordered some Cactus Club to my house because I was like, at least I should ask what it was.
Yeah.
I got Cactus Club because that's my go-to. And
I didn't know that. Okay.
I get a call from one Mr. David Quadrelli being like, did you just order food to my house? And
my boss. Like, my boss, everybody.
Yeah. So
you're ordering food to my boss again.
Yeah. For like added background, like I am in a group chat with some other writers, like where we talk about like playing Warzone and stuff like that. And Quads is just like mentioning how like he was super stoked to do his radio show on Saturday, but he was having a hard week or whatever. And so I was like, I don't like hearing people that I like having bad weeks. So I was like, hey man, like, can I order you some dinner or whatever? So you don't have to worry about it. And what I forgot is DoorDash saves your last address in the system. So of course I'm really stressed out recapping this game. Order some Cactus Club, don't even think about it, put the phone down, and then I'm like finally getting into like the third period, and it's like 9:30 or 9:40 or whatever. Like the game's over at this point.
Game's way over. Yeah.
Like recap's gonna be so late, and then I get a call from David being like, "Yeah, your food's at my house. I'll try to keep it warm for you."
That's really funny.
So yeah, drove out there, picked up the food, just like it helped me have a mental reset because I was so mad at how poor the first review of the season was going, and then just the ridiculousness of having to pick up food from my buddy's house is just like really funny.
And also not staring at the screen, I have to imagine, calms it down. Like drives are very nice for that sometimes. Like even if it's like for something completely that you don't want to be doing, sometimes just being able to like sit in your car, you're not staring at a screen or anything, you're just driving to do whatever. Sometimes that's like really helpful. That really like resets you. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when it is a Bakersfield game and you're staring at a screen where you have no idea what's happening. Yeah. Like I'm trying to track. Before we started recording, I just started to track the first period, and I actually made some decisions in my tracking for this year, which I'll get into. But anyway, that reset was really good because it took my eyes off of 8-bit quality camera footage and was just like, all right, let's get home, inhale my food, and just get this recap out as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. But you were having a crappy night at that point, and I wasn't gonna I didn't want to send you any dumb questions that I might ask in a normal situation, but I was literally gonna be like when you said that you ordered food to Quad's house, I was like if it's just McDonald's, like just are you just call it a mulligan? You just call it a mulligan and order again.
Enjoy.
Like I was gonna ask you, like, was this actually worth going out to drive and get, or was it like just like something you? Could
it was expensive enough where it was
Fair
like
enough. That's a Cactus Club.
I could
Fair
be
enough.
nice and be like, hey man, if you don't like
Keep
this
it.
food, like, or if you like these things, keep them, and I'll try again. But
yeah, I get that.
I
What
needed
is your
the food.
What's your go-to Cactus Club order?
I usually go to quesadilla and
that. You know what? I was
crispy
thinking that might
sandwiches.
I was thinking it might be the quesadilla. Like that's that was my thought process. Yeah,
super good, super basic.
Yeah,
but yeah. So the funny thing is, so when I did my second recap on Sunday, I was about to publish it, and then I did like a quick like spell check kind of thing, right? Because I have the worst spelling imaginable, and when I did that, for whatever fucking reason, it deleted all the spaces between the words. So like
what?
There was no more spaces between any of the words. So I had to go through my entire like 2,000 word write up and add the spaces between words for everything.
Wait, you did that? Why didn't you just like go Control Z and go back? Like or go undo?
It didn't do
anything.
It
didn't work.
It was just like something happened with like my Chrome or whatever.
This is WordPress, like on the WordPress, like which is
on
the web hosting system that you and I both use.
So I'm hoping this isn't a recurring thing, because if it is, I'm just going to give up writing altogether.
Oh, that's so odd. One thing that I'll suggest, and I know this is this is a conversation that's very inside baseball. This would normally, I think, be something that we'd put on the Patreon show. But what I always do is I write my entire article on Google Drive first and then copy paste it over to WordPress, because I feel like especially WordPress is like, as much as their website hosting is pretty good, I've noticed that their writing software is a little dodgy at times and a little flighty. Sometimes you just lose an entire
it can be a little
article for
glitchy
nothing
at times. So I'm constantly doing like Control A to copy everything and then posting it into a Word just in case something fucks up, because I've had that happen before where I've written like 800 words and then I'll accidentally hit like back on the page and it'll just not auto save and I'll have to restart from scratch. So this is all very inside baseball, folks.
But yeah, I always
point
do,
is,
that's why
start of the season hasn't been so great for the AHL coverage.
It'll get
as
better.
I was talking about, I decided when I started tracking this game, I'm not going to track giveaways and takeaways, because there's so little you can glean from that information, and I can barely really talk about it because there's so much context that goes into a takeaway or a giveaway that it's just not worth it. So I'm just going back to raw shot attempts. It'll be easier to explain and easier to see when I'm dealing with Bakersfield's, VHS quality camera work.
Yeah. What's nice is like obviously in the past with the AHL stuff you do, I couldn't give much info or like intel or anything, but like for this one I actually could, because I did a little Barracuda stuff right after they flipped over to their new like TV system and everything. So like I think, and I remember they spent a lot of time working on this in the end and like at the AHL and like adding new cameras to places. So it is like interesting to find out that, Bakersfield has not done a good job keeping it up. But like hopefully I know for sure you'll get better results with the Barracuda games because they run literally in the Sharks arena. So they have all the Sharks cameras to access. So they have the full HD camera.
Ontario's camera system was so good that all my anxiety kind of disappeared, and I just know that eight games out of the year I'll be a little stressed out trying to recap their games, but otherwise it's all Gucci gang.
Yeah, because I think literally every other rink is okay. Like San Diego's, I think, is pretty good. I think Stockton is the only one that I forgot exactly how good if it's good or not. But like, yeah, the rest of them are pretty okay. I would imagine Henderson, even though I haven't seen any of their games, it's a brand new rink.
They've got good quality. I've seen theirs. There's
okay. Well, there you go. So but yeah. So that's kind of that was your adventure over the weekend.
Yes.
Speaking of San Jose things,
I was gonna say,
go for it. Yours is probably better.
Speaking of the San Jose quality of their broadcast, doesn't also extend to their quality of player in their organization, because Evander Kane,
not actually on the ice, by the way. They're on the ice team. They beat Winnipeg on Saturday with Jonathan Dahlen. I think you pointed out. that Jonathan Dahlen
playing the hard matchup minutes against Scheifele, Wheeler, and Connor, which is absolutely hysterical.
I am happy for Jonathan that he's back.
Yeah, good for him. Me too.
I'm happy for him.
But yeah, for those that don't know, Evander Kane suspended 21 games by the NHL, not the team, by the NHL for violating the COVID-19 protocols. It was revealed that he had submitted a fake vaccine passport to the team, like the absolute brilliant man that he is. This is one of 3 ongoing investigations he was under. And the same kind of breath, they also revealed that they couldn't verify claims of domestic abuse by his spouse. So that was 2 of 3 ongoing investigations completed. I think the third one is still kind of ongoing, where they're still trying to suss out.
I think they solved the gambling one. I think they the one where he was like allegedly betting on his own games. I think they found that there was no merit to that one either.
Okay. So then they did 3. They're 3 for 3. Then there's probably a 4th waiting in the wings, though. With at the rate this guy's in the news.
Yeah, we won't spend too much time on this because at this point it's like.
No, I was gonna say our around the NHL news is all really fucking depressing.
Yeah.
So let's not talk about this at all.
Yeah, I think we'll flip. Like we'll quickly touch. Yeah, like I think for Kane, especially, like I would be honestly. I think at this point, like considering what this year has been for him, and like let's not even like you can't. This doesn't even include the fact that he was being sued. He was being sued by a bank for defaulting on loans. So like I'm going to be on like. I feel like we've seen the last of not just Evander Kane in a Sharks uniform. I think we've just seen the last of him in the NHL in general. I don't think any team's touching him with a 10-foot pole at this point. Like,
no,
doesn't matter. It's done. He's done. I would be stunned if any team took a flyer on him at this point.
Yeah. Another player that is done, but not for the same reasons. Tampa Bay Lightning's Nikita Kucherov apparently is going to be out for a long time due to a knee surgery-related injury. I remember we were talking about this during our playoff coverage episodes, how Kucherov was taking like really light touches to the back of his knee and going down like he was getting shot. I have a feeling this is probably related to that. Like something obviously wasn't done correctly in his knee surgery. And
did they say it was a knee? Did they say it was the knee again? Or
was it was
wow. Okay.
I have to look it up, but they're basically like complications of knee surgery means he's going to be out for like a long time. Let me pull up the actual full thing.
Which is very, very bad. Surgeries again, like I think we've talked about on the show, like we're no doctors, but I think it's been talked about before that, like, surgeries more or less in most cases, they're kind of a temporary fix. Like they're the last resort because in theory, rehabbing it, like, if people remember with Connor McDavid, when he got hurt, I think it was also a knee injury for him.
Yeah.
Instead of surgery, they specifically opted for rehabbing that knee,
and it was like super risky or something. Like the rehab he was going through, right?
It was just it wasn't. No, here's the thing: it wasn't the rehab itself wasn't risky. The timeline of how long it can take to rehab was the thing. Is in theory, yes, your knee will be more or less will be closer to 100% by rehabbing it. Than it would be through surgery. The surgery actually is riskier in that regard, I believe. The only difference is that rehab takes a lot longer. It takes a lot longer to get it to properly fix because it's not like an insta like 30 minutes under the knife kind of situation, right? I think I could be wrong. We might have to maybe we should have a doctor on here at this point, like a guest on.
I'm reading it now. I'm reading it now. It isn't specifically the knee, but apparently it is groin related. But it requires surgery that will not be day to day. Bad news for him. Good news for the Tampa's cap situation. Maybe they take a run at Jack Eichel now.
It's one of those situations where, like, again, because of what happened last season, because of how last year went. On one hand, obviously, you feel really bad for Kucherov. Because he's hurt. Clearly he's injured. But at the same time, you look at what happened last season and you like obviously immediately the skeptics come out, right? Because of how things went last year. They're like, it's one of those like, but
there are clips of
like
There are clips of the play where he does look hurt and like he's clearly hurt. Looks like he pulls his groin. So
yeah. I'm not going to put any merit to the idea that he's not actually injured. It's just because of how last season went, where there were points where it's like, if they tested him, he's probably fine to play, right? Like, because he was skating quite early on in the time that he was supposed to be like on LTIR kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So there was that whole situation last season where, but like. Again, it's within the rules. They're not doing anything wrong. Like
now they can activate.
It's another.
Now they can activate Brent Seabrook. So this is good news for them.
Oh man, Brent Seabrook. That's
He's coming back as a forward, baby.
Who is their next guy? Oh man, they lost Alex?
Yeah,
Barbelet or whatever. Yeah, right. That would have been. I probably would have been their guy. Whoops. Tough. Oops. Literally, unlucky draw for them. Also, just the fact that the Lightning have played a lot of games like in the last 2 years. Injury is.
It's almost expected with the territory that they're in right now.
In today's NHL, especially, the reason teams don't have the reason a dynasty now is considered winning 2 cups in a short window of 2 or 3 years is because NHL player bodies cannot keep up past that. Like they just can't. You can't play 82 games with the same roster and expect them to keep churning out the same results like 3 or 4 years in a row. It's just not possible. So
other news, sad news. Jimmy Hayes, cause of death confirmed to be an overdose linked to fentanyl.
According to his family, I believe.
Yeah, his family was saying he was on pain pills, and I guess there is obviously if you don't know, there's like a serious opioid epidemic right now, especially related to fentanyl in North America. Mm-hmm. Just tragic, heartbreaking to see.
It touches close to home, obviously, for us here in Vancouver. Because we lost a botch not that long, 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was a similar situation there. Mm-hmm. And it's the case of literally the whole thing of it's not just that people can get, opioids over the counter. It's the things of because there aren't safe spaces for people who want drugs, recreational drugs to get them. They have to go through shady places where sometimes where fentanyl is kind of thrown in there thrown in there as kind of to try and get them extra addicted kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, it's a whole, and I really, really appreciate his the Hayes family doing because they put it out there. They specifically were we want this public because we want to prevent similar deaths, not just with hockey players, with anybody. And that's really, really and that's really noble of them. And I think we both really appreciate that. Just that understanding of it's not him, it's not his fault,
the openness and honesty about what it was that killed him is great, and the fact that they did it right away too is really admirable, because it points the conversation to advocating for a safe supply and the eradication of fentanyl related deaths in not just the United States but North America in general. So
British Columbia in
kudos to them.
General, and this is obviously not a BC related story, but BC, there's a very high rate of death among people due to overdose from fentanyl in specifically. It's a tough thing. I don't consider myself a very political person, I think I'm very, or at least in the sense of I don't really talk about it much publicly just because it's not my style.
Sure.
But this is one of those cases where it's very much I want to, I think I want to, it's one of those where I would want to talk about this in the fact of look, you can't, as long as people have been around, there have been drugs. People have been doing drugs for recreational purposes, medicinal, what have you. You can't, and no matter what ban there is on it, or no matter what drug charges there are for those kinds of things, you'll never stop people from doing it. So in the best thing you can do right now, the best thing we can do as a society is, instead of criminalizing people who do it and essentially making or even trying to spin these people in the public eye as terrible people who should be shamed from society kind of thing, is we need to make sure that they have access to safe supply. That's the word I'm looking for, because it's because of how many lives it would save. And it just the astronomical number of fatalities and casualties that we could be preventing from safe supply is been proven in studies that it helps and it works. And yeah, we should be going in that direction. I believe recently, in the last, I think it was the last election, I think Oregon decriminalized all drugs in their state. And yeah, so that kind of stuff is very good. So yeah, we at the CreaseCast are very adamant about that sort of thing, and that it's
we are pro safe drugs.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do.
Otherwise, more fun news. Jack Hughes with a fun OT goal celebration, tossing his stick over the glass. That's always great.
Hard turn, but
hard left turn. But
just to kind of
we didn't make the notes in this order. You can blame our producer for this.
Yeah, I mean, this was Jack Hughes' goal was quite nice. The throwing the stick into the crowd, that thing. Honestly, we don't even have to touch on this at the end of the day. If you, I honestly feel we can probably cut it here. There was the Patrick Laine thing of him showing up for the first game,
looking like a James Bond villain from 1986.
Yeah, he sure did. I was gonna my first go-to. I don't know about you, but my first thought was Dr. Eggman from the Sonic games. That was my first thought when I saw him, the mustache, the glasses.
Yeah, I could see that.
Is he when you see that guy, is he Dr. Eggman or Dr. Robotnik?
He's Robotnik to me. I would never call him Eggman, but I know who you're talking about.
Interesting. I don't know why that is. I don't know why he has two names. There doesn't seem to be a correlation there. It just seems to be kind of depending on the game, he's a different name.
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah,
I have no answer on this.
No, we're not big Sonic people here. We just kind of
Sonic is not that great of a game, to be honest.
No, it really isn't. The first game might have been fun, but I don't know. I've never been oh my god, new Sonic game, sign me up. No. That's not my thing. No, I'm much more of a Mario Kart guy.
Hell yeah, most people are, because people are normal. Anyways, folks, we are on some wild ass tangents in this episode. This was a very CreaseCast episode. I think this was quintessential ADHD. Us. Yes. Yeah, pretty much. Let's talk about food now.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna sign off here now. I am Cody Sievertson. You can follow me on Twitter at Cody Sievertson and my website ahlnucksharvest.com. Lachlan, where can they find you and your many outlets that you are now a part of?
That's right. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lach and the Crease. And you can find me also on my other podcast, Locked On Canucks, which I do with Nick Bondi Monday to Friday. And you can find my writing work now at CanucksArmy.com, where I'll be and LockinTheCrease.com. Although I think it's pretty obvious I will not be writing there as much now. That will be more of a, I guess, kind of just updates on what I'm doing and that sort of thing. Keep that in mind for sure.
Yeah. As always, folks, you can find our stuff on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, TuneIn, Amazon, Stitcher, Overcast, Podcast Addict, all your favorite podcasts. Recommend us to your friends. Tell your families. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us some comments, too. We appreciate those as well. Check out our YouTube channel where we got everything in video format. You can see my pretty rad-looking hair. Lachlan's got a nice shave going. We're looking all right for all things considered. Don't forget, we also have our Patreon where you can subscribe for $1 and $5 tiers, where we have exclusive content being churned out on the monthly. Also our Teespring. I think we got links.
Yeah.
In the description
that's
of that
right.
Stuff.
We have only a few more days left on the Always Tired merch. We're gonna retire it after this week, so go check it out.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right to have Always Tired merch now that he's been shafted off to the Florida Panthers organizations.
Yes.
Anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the CreaseCast. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.